everyone. I'm the West Ditch. So for myself, I'm Paige. I'm one of the dietitians, like I mentioned.
I'm Tara. I'm from here. Yeah, I'm just interested in having food sovereignty. I'd be interested in like community garden or like greenhouse garden because
we're just really interested, and we've got kids who chickens and we're to learn.
My name is Talon, and I'm ready to battle the rooster.
I'm Anita, and I made application, I think, 3 years ago, wherever Paige is. And was interested in, I raised chickens when I was younger, but I'm interested in passing that knowledge on to, you see these interns I have here? Onto them, and just having to learn. I'm also a foster parent, so I thought it would be a really good project to have at home for all kinds of hands-on to experience, because chickens have their own personalities.
My name's Tina. I'm from here and excited to learn about chickens.
My name is Darren Holloway, and I'm one of participants from here. This is my first year in this program. I'm interested in having chickens of my own as well because my brother has had success at having his own. He's also had turkeys and ducks. Wow. And even some other animals like rabbits and stuff like that. And he even has a pit bull, and he's able to get them all living together just one.
wow.
And he also has two tortoises. Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And even during the pandemic, my brother and I, we raised 2 pigs, and they were very helpful during the pandemic as a food source. And I'm really interested in this program. As for my daughter, to get her interested into it as well, and just to have a food source as well.
Jeanette's going to be up here pretty soon. One thing I just wanted to kind of ask for right now is just because Jeanette is really going to be here to talk about like her experience raising chickens, just the kind of like the background purpose for this program. I wanted to take 2 seconds just to go over like what the timeline would look like. So every session is going to be once a month. So we'll just have a session, and today we're going to agree upon our next date for the February session, something that works for everybody. If you have certain kind of scheduling limits, then we're going to try and all kind of come up with a date for the follow-up session. The follow-up session is going to have mentors from the community that have raised chickens before. Until then, we have a session once a month, one in January, one in February, one in March. And the sessions don't have specific topics. Like we do have areas that we want you to be aware of. But the sessions are really guided to what your questions are. So if there's certain areas where you don't know how to deal with the hurdle of your neighbor's dogs and you raising chickens, or the wind that might be around your area. These are things that we're going to address in those next sessions. So anything that you bring up, we'll try to get answers for. If it's even diseases that can be transferred to humans, things like that, and just ways to kind of keep your family safe. We'll be talking about that. But I just wanted to kind of briefly talk about like what the timeline would be like and how often you have to see me. So you'll see me once a month until April, and this is your project. So after April, when you receive your chickens, I'm always here as a resource. But at the end of the day, you run the coop the way you want, and hopefully in the following year, you can be mentors for other people that have questions. So, because everybody in the community is really eager to learn how to provide food for themselves and raise chickens and have that dynamic. So I just wanted to touch on that before Jeanette arrived, and that you'll be receiving feed and shavings for the first year in this project, but you will just be expected to go and pick it up. So North 40 is where you'll be picking up your chickens. Typically they have Lohman brown hens. So brown hens are usually much better and hardier in the wintertime because they're able, Lohman brown chickens, Lohmans. That's what they had last year. But we'll just kind of have to confirm with that. And those ones, so in your handouts, they just kind of talk about like the difference between a meat chicken and an egg chicken. So there's little differences there. But Jeanette is here, so I will let you have the floor, Jeanette. And we'll kind of go over a couple things. Do you mind if I sit next to you?
No, I don't. Go ahead. I'm Jeanette Wildman. I'm Stoney Health Services Cultural Liaison. And this is one of the many programs that I am involved in with Stoney Health. At the moment, I'm the only cultural liaison. And sometimes I get stretched thin, but I don't mind. I'm involved with all the departments within Stoney Health. This being one of them, the Wellness Center, the day program, the Elders program, and many more as needed. I got involved in this program when I first had my chickens. That was back in 2019. And we kept them going until last year, this past fall. One died, and then it seemed like they just followed each other. We forgot to plug in our heat for them this past winter when it started getting cold and they froze. But I was telling Paige, once we had a big dog, he was Pyrenees cross. Once he got used to them and he recognized that they were there for a reason, he protected them. When we let them out, one day in particular, we let them out and we heard him barking by the creek because we live by a creek. My husband went to go check to see what the commotion was about, and he had stopped that hen from going further into the bush, and he was barking at it to try and get it back. Once he got used to them, he never attacked them, and I was grateful for him. So I was telling her, once your dog, one or in particular, get used to having the hens around, they protect the hens also. Something made a tunnel under we got the coops when they first came out, and they're the smaller ones. I'm purchasing more this spring and hopefully add to my coop. They're perfect for my toddler. We're raising he's gonna be 4 this month. And that's his daily job. He lets them out in the summer and he watches them, and he chases them back, and they're mostly, they're real good to take care of. Some people fed them table scraps and everything, but us, we kept to the store-bought and the treats like worms and what North Florida had for treats, that's what we fed ours. I never fed them table scraps. Although whole wheat bread, dried out whole wheat bread was suggested at that point, but I kept to the store-bought treats for them. And they finally left last winter, and I'm going to be buying more and keep raising them. The brown ones have brown eggs, and the white ones have, the eggs varied in size. Sometimes they were jumbo, and sometimes they were medium, but I've never seen a peewee size egg, but they were mostly medium and jumbo. I guess it depended on what they ate.
Yeah, they were saying that because I was talking to Egg Farmers of Alberta about somebody whose chicken couldn't pass the egg because it was so big and it was getting stuck. So what they would have to do is really relax the chicken, kind of give it a chicken spa day, and just let them be warm and toasty and kind of be able to be submerged in a hot bath so that the egg could come out. But I was asking, well, why is the egg so big? And it's related to the protein that the chicken is eating. So if the feed you're providing or the scraps, for example, sometimes like Donna on a hot day would have frozen peas that she would give to the chickens. And those are quite high in protein compared to the feed. So that can be ways that if it's not regulated and there's a lot of peas coming in, that can make the eggs very big, which is awesome, but just being careful about maybe how big they get. And that's not going to be fun for your laying hen. So.
The other thing about it is the maintenance of the chicken coop. They're good fertilizer. What they leave behind is good fertilizer for the lawn, but again, that's another work. So that's the only part of keeping the chickens is the maintenance of the coop, because they have to be cleaned out. Because correct me if I'm wrong, when the coop gets dirty and it's left like that for a while, I was told that the gases they produce can be harmful back to the hens, and they can die from poison. So with that in mind, I try to keep the coops clean. But then again, there has to be a balance. When you keep them clean too much, and they don't like that either. So it has to be done at your own discretion.
The chickens do have a very good sense of smell. So when the coop is a little bit on the fragrant side, for lack of a better word, when it's just a little bit musky, they won't lay eggs. So she thought that something was wrong. She thought that they were done, that they were getting too old, but really she just did a quick turnover of the shavings, and that really, really helped out. And that is exactly right, that sometimes the fumes from the coop can be really harmful. So just trying to turn that over when you can, if you notice, and just going on by your sense of smell, because it really, how often you change over the shavings depends on the conditions and how many chickens you have, and everybody's a little bit different. So if there's been a lot of moisture going on, that would be more often to turn it over, because that moisture is where bacteria like to hang out, and sometimes that can get into their feathers and they can get itchy and spotty. So just making sure that it's just like a dog pen too, that like if your dog is getting itchy or anything like that, and just making sure that their area is cleaner.
Don't get discouraged if they don't lay every day. They have their moments, and they like to be, they're used to one person that attends to them. That's what I found out too. My husband and our little guy was the one that attended to them every day, and they noticed him. The hens started noticing who attended to them, and they created their own, how should I put it, intelligence towards who was all there like every day. So I think it's better if it's a family, for the family to take turns in attending to them, or else when they see someone in the coop that's not been there before, they tend to attack. And they will attack you and run for the door too. Because they tried to attack me twice because I wasn't the one that fed them every day. And they noticed too, they're protective. So they'll attack and then they'll run for the door. Out they go, they'll take off. But they're pretty good. I think they're pretty good to keep. I miss my hens.
And what did you find were some of the biggest reasons that some people in the community has troubles raising chickens?
Maintenance, I think, and upkeep with their food.
Okay.
Take care of them. Like in the winter, I don't think anybody really bothered to put that heat lamp in there, and they froze. And ours survived for about 5 years, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yep. So the North 40 is where you'll be getting the chickens in April. They do have a lot of different supplies to purchase depending on what you think would be best suited for your area. So heat lamps and just using like a light bulb. Even that was what Eldris Snow and Brian Snow did, is that they just had a light bulb. They didn't even have an actual heat lamp, and that seemed to work really well. The amount of chickens that you're going to be having, like because you're not just having 5, you're having 15 to 20, they will huddle together and keep themselves warm. So that's really, really helpful. But even if you do have a heat lamp, sometimes you can buy those little like Christmas tree timers where it will knock off the heat, so you're not cooking a chicken under a heat lamp. Not that actually was never a problem, but it's just something to be aware of. And sometimes people will buy heat pads. They're about $15 for a little heat pad, and you can put the water on top of that so that the water doesn't freeze in the wintertime. So I noticed that with like raising dogs, like that would like to be outside, that the water would always freeze. So, but it is always just a good reminder to go out in the morning, make sure the water's fresh, collect the eggs, and then in the evening.
When the coop isn't cleaned out too, when they're together too, they create those gases I talked about, and that could kill them too, eh? So we put our heat lamp where they drink water and left the coop open, so they were out in the open too, but when they got cold, they came back in where there was heat, but that heat lamp was set where it was low, not high, because the coop was really small, the area, so we set the heat lamp according to the area. So if we set it out in a big area, then we turn up the heat, but when they went back in, we set it at the very lowest, and they still survived. And they're not to eat.
That's a big, big thing, is they're not to eat, yeah.
You eat the eggs, but not the hens themselves. Shall I tell them that story?
Yes.
The first batch we gave out wasn't even a month, right? We found out that I think that person was traditional in a way, and he ate up the hens.
Not the same kind of meat. It's pretty tough, and there's not a lot of meat on these chickens, so
Not the chicken on the way.
Brownie points for being resourceful, for sure. I like it. To go back to the heat part, a lot of it is making sure that they're insulated. The coop itself was really great, but it was more of the run that was the issue. The run was just kind of chicken wire that was wrapped around, so there was no cover on the top. So eagles, hawks will kind of go in, and then any kind of dog can get creative about going underneath or over top. What a lot of people would do is just make sure that it's insulated, like they'll take a carpet or a tarp and throw it over. The only thing with chickens is that they operate by the sun. So just making sure they have some access to light to know what time of day it is. Like the people that you gave coops to that were in open spaces struggled the most because of the wind. So just because they're more accessible for predators too.
What we did when it got windy was we put tarp over where the wire is, and then when the wind settled down, we took the tarp off. But in the winter time too, to keep them more cozy, I had old blankets laying around. I covered the part where there's no wire. And when we didn't have that heat lamp, that's what we put for heat. That worked well. I don't know how they survived. About 2 Decembers ago, we spent the whole month in San Diego, and they were the ones I worried about the most. But we left out some feed for them to last them, and we had asked my daughter to take care of them. And she kept going to check up on them, and they didn't really eat a lot, but she just kept an eye on them. And through that harsh, cold winter back then, I think 2 years ago, not this past December, the December before that, we spent a month in San Diego. We came back and they survived. I was surprised that I was worried about them, and they kind of took care of themselves. I think that daily routine that we did when we were around I think they kept it up for themselves also.
And the feed is really important too for just making sure that they have the body heat to have, because that was the one part too, is that in the wintertime, when it's really, really cold, sometimes like the car doesn't start and then you're like, oh, I need to get feed. So now the chicken could be potentially a little bit on the hungrier side. I thought it was like a chicken, like it should be a rooster. If they're hungry, they won't produce as much body heat. So a well-fed chicken is the warmest kind of chicken. And especially the chickens that you'll be getting, like the brown chickens, are hardier in the wintertime than a white chicken. That's typically what North 40 will have. So they're just a little bit thicker. So the big thing is moisture is like the best place for bacteria. So birds naturally will use the shavings that we have, because there's different sizes of the shavings that you get. It's kind of it's a mixed bag. So the smaller pieces of the shavings is what they will use to kind of like just kind of dry off in and make sure that their feathers aren't collecting a lot of mud and moisture in them. So that part's really nice. And then on that kind of same note about general upkeep is making sure they're not bored. When they're bored, they like to peck at each other, kind of like humans, you know, we start like bugging our siblings or something like that when we're bored. So same kind of thing. If you, like I know Donna would talk about, just if cabbage in the fridge looks sad, she just toss it right into the chicken coop and they would just act like a little soccer ball, or they peck it, or she'd hang it. And that was just something for them to do, is just to peck at it. CDs, like if you got old CDs that you don't know what to do with, hanging them in the coop, it kind of, oh, what's that? You know, that shiny thing. So it's entertainment for the chickens, and scraps are hit and miss.
Even those silver balls that you hang up for Christmas when they go around.
Disco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those ones, they're really amused by that. They'll sit there and you go.
And that's kind of the big purpose about this being like a discussion. Like there's no set schedule on like the topics. It's just gonna kind of come up naturally what you want to talk about. So that's what I wanted this first session to be, is that when we come in for our follow-up in February, the 28th at 11 o'clock, we can kind of have some of those questions to bring, or even tips. Like if you found something on a chicken Facebook group and you're saying, can we fact check this? Or what do you guys think about this? How do you think this will kind of run in our community? We can talk about it. The community members from last year were even bringing up that on a Facebook group, there was peppermint oil was really helpful for deterring pests. And just the smell of peppermint is absolutely nauseating to mice and weasels and skunks. Oh, yeah. They hate it. It's just too fragrant for them. So putting like that oil into kind of like the corners and nooks and crannies can be really helpful, even for coyotes.
I never, well, not never, but I didn't have to put my eggs in the fridge all the time. Yeah. If they have that plume still on them, they're still fresh, and I used to keep them in the porch. And I didn't put them in the, once they're in the fridge, then they have that, then they have a certain date they need to be eaten by. But if they hatched a lot, I didn't put them in the fridge. I just put them in a cool place, but not very refrigerated. And they still stayed fresh.
Father Jeanette, how many would you get per day, like on average?
Oh, the most we got was about an 18 pack in one day. And then maybe the large ones, that one day we had about a dozen large, like jumbo size, huge eggs. And then it varied, and then they'd go back to maybe 6 medium or something like that, and then they fluctuated. Sometimes they never, 2 or 3 days they'd go without laying, eh?
Once there's a coating that the egg will have that prevents it from spoiling, so naturally the egg will have that. So if you were going to give them to somebody, you wash them, say, hey, you got 2 weeks from now, and then that would be, and then they would need to be refrigerated. But when they're dirty, that means they got a long shelf life, can be between a month to a month and a half, and they don't need to be refrigerated. I think that's it for what's in your handouts. Anything else? On your handouts too, this has like the form for photos. It's more about like even for Josh, so like when he's doing the filming, just so that any other people, like if you were saying, hey, I know that you filmed this, but my partner couldn't come, can he watch that video? Then we would have like that posted somewhere that they can have that. So it's just making sure that you're okay with being in that video, and just so that people can kind of see that.
Anything to say, Mr. Chicken? Oh, big rooster.